I'm Paula Ward and this is Easy Knitting Design. This video is part 2 in the top-down sleeve. Here's the sweater body with the shoulders seamed ready for the sleeve. I place markers at the beginning and the end of the bound-off stitches under the arm. I count the remaining stitches around the armhole. You can use stitch markers or scrap yarn, as I am here, to divide the remaining armhole stitches into 6 sections. Hold a lightweight yarn or embroidery floss in a contrasting color together with the working yarn. When picking up bound-off stitches, I go right through the middle of a stitch. I start at the bound-off stitch farthest to the right, and holding the yarn with the contrasting thread, pick up 1 stitch in each of the 10 bound-off underarm stitches. Notice that I'm wrapping the yarn counterclockwise around the needle. You may find it easier to pick up stitches using a crochet hook. I do this by picking up 5 to 10 stitches with the crochet hook, then slide them off the back of the hook onto my knitting needle. Here I've picked up all 56 stitches all the way around the armhole. Now I drop the contrasting thread and continue knitting around the armhole. Here I've knit all the way around one side, past the shoulder seam, to the first flag on the other side. Now it's time to work our first wrap and turn from the knit side. Slip as if to purl, bring the yarn forward, return the slipped stitch, turn the work, purl 1 stitch, use a stitch marker to mark the wrap on the knit side, and continue purling. I am now purling in the opposite direction of my knitting, back past the shoulder seam on the inside of the sweater. I use the magic loop method to knit this sleeve, which just means using the long cable to pull a loop through on each end of the knitting. I have purled from the first wrap and turn, back up over the top of the armhole and the shoulder seam, back to the flag just before the shoulder seam. Now I'll work a purl side wrap and turn. Slip a stitch as if to purl, move the yarn to the back, return the slipped stitch, turn the work. Move the yarn to the back, knit 1 stitch, mark the wrap on the purl side, and continue knitting. And I continue knitting up over the top of the shoulder again. I'm knitting back towards the first wrap and turn. Here I am at our first wrap and turn. I'm going to pick up the wrap and work another wrap and turn in the very next stitch. I pick up the wrap through the front and knit it together with the wrapped stitch. Here's the wrap and turn on the next stitch. Slip a stitch as if to purl, bring the yarn forward, return the slipped stitch and turn the work. Purl 1 stitch, mark the wrap on the knit side, and then continue purling. I've purled on the inside of the sleeve, the wrong side, again up over the shoulder back to the first purl side wrap and turn. Now I pick up the wrap from the back and purl it together with the wrapped stitch. On the very next stitch I work another purl side wrap and turn. Slip as if to purl, move the yarn to the back, return the slipped stitch, turn the work. Knit 1 stitch, mark the wrap, and continue knitting. After the wrap and turn, I'm on the knit side of the work again, knitting back around. I continue in this way, working back and forth, working a wrap and turn 1 stitch farther each time. Let's watch it one more time. On the knit side, I pick up the wrap through the front, then knit it with the wrapped stitch, then remove the marker. I work a knit side wrap and turn on the very next stitch. And then purl back across the top of the shoulder. I've purled almost all the way back to the purl side wrap. Now I'm picking up the purl side wrap from the back, then purling it together with the wrapped stitch. On the very next stitch, I work a purl side wrap and turn. and then knit back. Here you can see the picked up stitches are a little too tight to slide easily from the cable to the needle. This is why you don't want to work too tightly when you're first picking up the stitches. I've worked back and forth all the way to the second flag on both sides, and you can see more of the sleeve cap here. Here you can see the orange marker on the wrap and turn is moving closer to the green marker where I first began picking up stitches. I continue working back and forth. I'm on a knit side row and I've finally reached the green marker where I began picking up stitches at the first underarm bind off. I will pick up this wrap and knit it together with the wrapped stitch. Now I'll just continue knitting past the green marker across the underarm part of the sleeve. As I continue on around the other side, I reach the marker for the purl side wrap and turns. I can pick this wrap up from the front even though it is a purl side wrap. The idea is to knit the wrap together with the wrapped stitch in a way that doesn't show. Now I just keep on knitting, working in the round. I've knit all the way around and am at the underarm again. I will now weave in a scrap yarn every 3 to 4 stitches to mark my underarm seam. This will give me a consistent point from which to measure the rest of my sleeve length. The seam between the sleeve and sweater body is somewhat loose. After I've knit an inch or so of the upper sleeve, I'll tighten that up as follows. Turn the sleeve inside out. Remember that contrasting yarn on the pickup row? Find the tail end now. We want to tighten up the pickup row and pull the excess yarn out by the tail. To do that, I start at the tail and follow the contrasting yarn around the armhole to where I dropped it on the last picked up stitch. This is the point where I will start pulling up the excess yarn in the pickup row, working the excess backwards towards the yarn tail. Holding the wrong side of the sweater body towards me, I look for the pickup row, which is marked with my contrasting yarn. Using my needle, I pull up the stitch to tighten up the seam. Not too tight. You don't want the seam to pucker or be tight around the arm. Just snug it up until it looks good on the outside. Pull the excess through every few stitches, working around the armhole in the opposite direction from your circular knitting. You can see here how the seam is closing up. You shouldn't be able to see the contrasting yarn on the right side. When you've worked the excess all the way around the armhole, pull on the tail of the yarn. You will trim this tail and weave it in later. The contrasting yarn can easily be pulled out. I hope you've enjoyed my videos. Don't worry about taking notes. I've put the entire system into an ebook available at knitsweaterpattern.com. The sleeve cap is finished and it looks good. Now we'll knit the rest of the sleeve.